Imagine you're walking along the ocean floor. It's pitch black, freezing cold, and dead silent. But suddenly, you see something horrific, a giant whale carcass rotting on the sea floor. And it's moving. You lean in, and that's when you see them thousands of tiny worms swarming out of the bones. Not crawling on the bones, drilling into them. These are zombie worms, scientifically called Osedax, and they don't just eat bones, they were built to consume them. But here's where it gets even weirder. These worms have no mouth, no gut, and no butt. Literally. They can't chew, they can't digest, and they can't poop, and yet they thrive by eating bones in one of the harshest places on Earth. How? Well, to understand that, you need to know why these worms are only ever found in one place, on the corpses of dead whales. How their strange biology turned them into one of the most specialized and frankly disturbing life forms ever discovered. How do they eat bones without a mouth? How do they even reproduce? And is there any creature more metal than a bone-eating worm? Let's dive in. Most people think that when a whale dies, its story ends. It just sinks to the bottom of the ocean, right? Not even close. When a whale dies and falls to the seafloor, it kickstarts one of the most extreme and short-lived ecosystems on Earth, something scientists call a whale fall. Whale falls are insanely rare. The ocean is huge, and most of it is miles deep. So when a whale dies, its body can sink thousands of meters before hitting bottom. And when it does, it becomes a buffet, a banquet for hundreds of species, many of which we've never even seen anywhere else. Scavengers arrive first. Hagfish, sleeper sharks, and crabs tear through the soft flesh. Then comes the weird stuff: bone-eating worms, sulfur-eating bacteria, and even ghostly white clams. A single whale fall can feed an entire ecosystem for decades. But the real stars of the show are the creatures that show up late, the ones that thrive after the flesh is gone. That's where the zombie worms come in. Because they don't care about meat. They're here for the bones. And not just to gnaw on them, to colonize them, break them down, and quite literally suck the marrow out of them. Zombie worms aren't something out of a horror movie. They're real, and they were only discovered in 2002. Scientists found them living deep in the Pacific, clustered around the bones of a dead whale like some kind of biological infestation. They named them Osedax, which literally means bone devourer. At first glance, Osedax doesn't even look like a worm. It has a soft, tube-like body with feathery red plumes sticking out of the top. Those plumes aren't decorations, they're gills, used to absorb oxygen from the surrounding water. But the strangest part of the animal isn't what you can see, it's what you can't. Osedax has no mouth, no stomach, no intestines, no way to eat in any normal sense. Instead of facing outward toward food, most of its body grows downward. Beneath the bone surface, it extends a tangled mass of root-like structures straight into the whale skeleton itself. These roots don't just anchor the worm in place, they're the key to everything. This is where Osedax gets its nutrients, survives for years, and completely rewrites what we thought an animal needed to stay alive. And somehow, this bizarre design works so well that zombie worms have spread across oceans worldwide wherever large bones hit the seafloor. At this point, you're probably wondering, how can something without a digestive system even eat bones? The secret lies in those weird root-like structures we mentioned earlier. These roots aren't just for anchoring. They're a biological fusion of worm and bacteria, working together like a creepy little chemistry lab. Here's how it works. The roots of Osedax secrete acid. Yes, acid that breaks down the whale bone's hard surface. Once the bone starts to dissolve, the roots penetrate deep into the marrow, which is packed with fats and proteins. But the worm itself doesn't actually digest any of this. Instead, it outsources digestion to symbiotic bacteria that live inside its roots. These bacteria break down the fats and proteins in the bone marrow and convert them into nutrients the worm can absorb. It's like the worm built its own external stomach and then let bacteria do all the work. And because Osedax doesn't waste energy on a mouth or intestines, it can devote more of its biology to colonizing as much bone as possible. Some individuals can cover entire ribs with their root systems, effectively setting up a one-worm buffet. It's disturbingly efficient. In short, no mouth, no gut, no problem, just acid, roots, and an army of bacteria. If you thought the zombie worms' eating habits were weird, just wait until you hear how they reproduce. Osedax doesn't just break biology rules, it completely rewrites them. In most species, males and females are relatively equal in size. Not here. Zombie worms are massively female-dominated. The females are the big ones, the bone-drilling, acid-secreting, bacteria-farming machines you've seen. The males? They're microscopic. As in, hundreds of them can live inside a single female's body. Yes, you heard that right. The males don't feed, don't grow, and don't leave. They hatch, crawl into a female's tube, and just live there as tiny, sperm-producing hitchhikers for the rest of their lives. It's less like a mating strategy and more like reproductive parasitism. But it works. Each female becomes a self-contained reproduction factory, stocked with dozens or even hundreds of males. This means if a single Osedax lands on a bone, it can establish an entire colony on its own because it already has all the reproductive parts it needs. This bizarre system allows zombie worms to rapidly colonize a whale fall, ensuring they get a foothold before competitors move in. And in the deep sea, where resources are rare, that reproductive speed is a superpower. It's easy to write off zombie worms as just another creepy deep sea oddity, but in reality, they're doing some of the ocean's most important cleanup work. When a whale dies, that body can weigh up to 200,000 pounds. That's a lot of organic material just rotting at the bottom of the ocean. If nothing broke it down, those bones would just pile up, untouched, for centuries. But Osedax plays a key role in recycling all that material. By boring into the bones and breaking them down from the inside out, zombie worms help release trapped nutrients back into the ecosystem, nutrients that would otherwise be locked away for decades. They also create mini ecosystems within the bone itself. Once Osedax colonizes a whale fall, the tunnels and chambers they create become habitats for bacteria, tiny crustaceans, and other deep-sea organisms. Their activity turns a dead whale into a living, breathing reef of its own. In a way, they're the ocean's bone recyclers. Gross, yes, but also critical. Without them, whale falls would decay far more slowly, and the deep-sea nutrient cycle would stall. These worms may look like squishy nightmares, but they're ecological MVPs, just really slimy ones. Now here's a fun or horrifying thought experiment. What if Osedax didn't just stick to whale bones? What if they could survive on any bones? Imagine if, instead of lurking miles below the surface, they adapted to shallow waters, or worse, to land. Suddenly, every animal carcass becomes a potential colony site. Roadkill? Colonized. Dinosaur bones? Colonized. Human remains? You get the idea. Now, don't panic, they can't survive out of deep-sea pressure or without very specific conditions. But the idea of a worm that eats bone marrow by secreting acid and growing a root system inside your skeleton? That's some sci-fi horror movie level stuff. This is what makes Osedax so fascinating. They don't just challenge our idea of what life can be, they stretch it. A creature with no mouth, no digestive tract, no normal mating, and no surface-dwelling relatives, thriving in a world of dead giants. And while they're perfectly suited to their niche now, one shift in ocean chemistry, or whale population, could either wipe them out or force them to evolve again. And who knows what kind of nightmare version of Osedax could come next. So, the next time you think about deep-sea creatures, don't just picture giant squids or anglerfish. Think about the worms. The ones with no face, no stomach, and no shame about drilling straight into a whale's spine. Zombie worms prove that life can thrive in the weirdest, most unlikely places with the weirdest, most unlikely body plans. They don't eat like other animals, they don't mate like other animals. They're proof that evolution doesn't care about what's normal. It only cares about what works. And somehow, acid-rooted bone skeleton harvester works. If you enjoyed this dive into one of nature's strangest creatures, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more deep-sea horrors, ocean oddities, and brain-melting biology facts. There's a lot more weird down there, and we're just getting started.